Summer is in full swing and it is 100% beach weather, so I thought it would be a lot of fun today to whip up a fun little beach tote for our summer beach days. Hello my beautiful and sweet friends, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to see you all. I'm so happy that you are here today. We're gonna have a little bit of fun and sort of just embrace the fun summer months by making a beach tote today. My grandchildren are still here visiting and my granddaughter just loves to do all things crafty with grandma, and sewing is her favorite craft to work on. So she asked me if we could do some sewing today, and how could I possibly say no to her sweet little face? So that's what we will be doing today. We will spend some time in the studio whipping up a really cute, fun, and functional beach tote. For our summer beach tote today, we are going to be using lots of different kinds of fabric, and I chose a couple of different accent fabrics, my main fabric, and then some faux leather for the bottom of our bag, and then you will also need a coordinating fabric for your straps. We will also need a fabric marker, and I am just using this erasable marker. You will need some fabric clips, some scissors, and we will be using a zipper foot today, and of course you'll need your sewing machine and coordinating thread of your choice in any color of your choice. All right, so I have gone ahead and pre-cut all of my fabric pieces just to save on time here. So these two panels here are going to be the outside part of my bag, and then the faux leather will be the bottom part of the outside of the bag. So I cut the first two panels at 17 by 17. Our faux leather pieces are cut at 17 by 6. And then for this accent fabric here, this is going to be the lining in the bag, and I just thought this would make such a fun, vibrant lining. We will need two of those cut at 23 by 17. Then we will also need a coordinating fabric for your straps, and the straps I cut at 35 inches long by 7 inches wide. We're also going to be putting quite a few pockets in our little summer tote bag here. So we're going to have some pockets on the outside of our tote bag, and for those two pockets, I cut two of them, and those are cut at 10 by 5. The inner pocket in this will be cut at 18 by 9. So you can use any type of coordinating fabric that you so choose for your pockets, just whatever matches your tote bag. And I will also have every single one of these measurements listed in the description box for y'all, as well as a downloadable, a printable, so that you can have all of these on hand, and that link will also be in my description box. All right, so now that we have all of our pieces cut and ready to go, let's start by assembling our tote bag. So the first thing I did was cut the straps, and then we're also going to need an iron and an ironing board, which is a pretty important component for this project. So I'm going to start by taking our strap and folding it in half, and then pressing that with the iron really well. Then I will take the bottom edge and fold it up to that first seam, that we made, and then the top one will also come down to match. Then we will fold that in half again and press everything very well. The better you press it, the easier it is going to be to sew this, and it also holds everything together really well. Okay, so now we're going to take our straps to the sewing machine, and we're just going to sew them together. We only actually need to sew down the open edge of our straps, but because I like a finished, polished look, I'm going to go ahead and sew down both sides just to give it that finished look. And for the seam on our strap, I am just using a straight stitch with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Here's our strap all sewn together, and see how nice it looks just having both top and bottom sewn together. It just gives it a very polished, professional look. All right, so now we're going to work on the outer pockets of the outside of our tote bag. And for these pockets, I cut them at 10 by 5, but then I folded down the top part in a double fold to just give it this nice little cuff, I guess you could call this, at the top of the pocket. I really like how that looks. So now we'll just take this to the sewing machine and sew down all 3 sides of this, and make sure you leave the top part of this pocket open, because otherwise you won't be able to get anything into it. So only sew down 3 sides of the pocket. For the pocket, I'm also just using an 1/8 inch seam allowance here with a straight stitch. But if you choose to, you could use any kind of a decorative stitch on these pockets. That would also be cute. After I get my first pocket sewn on, I do check it just to make sure that all the seams caught and there are no holes and gaps in the pocket. So then I will go ahead and get my second pocket sewn on, and we will be ready to move to the next step. As I get to the cuff section of our little pockets, I do sew over that just back and forth a couple of times, just to give that an extra sturdy reinforcement, because that's the section of the pocket that will get the most stress. I really like the raw frayed edges on these pockets. I just think it gives it that fun, playful, beachy look. So to fray these out, I just pull out all the loose strings, and if you need help fraying them, take the open end of your scissors and you can kind of run it across the edge, and it will loosen up all those strings so that you can get even more frayed look to this. Now it's time to assemble the bottom part of our bag. So we're going to take that faux leather and sew it across the bottom edge of the front panel. And make sure that you sew this to the bottom and that your pockets are right side up. You don't want upside down pockets. That would be bad if you had to take it all apart. I've had to do that and it's not fun. All right, so because this leather is a little bit slick, I did clip everything into place, and then I will take it to the sewing machine and attach this to the bottom portion of our front panel using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. After getting this sewn on, I do open up these seams and just kind of finger press them, but this faux leather doesn't lay very flat, so I did take this over to my sewing machine and press it. Something to keep in mind though, use a barrier cloth on top of it, because if you try to iron over that faux vinyl, it's going to melt and make a mess of your iron. So, all right, now we're going to put some boxed corners on the bottom of our tote bag. I just like that look, and I also think it gives it a little bit more stability if you want to stand your bag up. So we are going to make some markings on the bottom here. I came in 1 inch from the edge, and then from the bottom I came in also 1 inch. Now in hindsight, I wish I would have made this boxed corner just a little bit bigger. So if you want to, you can come in 2 inches from the side and 2 inches from the top for a more pronounced boxed corner. Once you get those drawn on, we're just going to cut them out with our scissors to make these little notches in it. And we're going to do this to all 4 pieces, our 2 front panels and our 2 lining panels. So here you can see I've cut the same boxed notches out on our lining fabric so that the lining has boxed corners as well. All right, so now we're going to do the fun part. We are going to sew our inner pocket into the lining. And y'all, don't let this intimidate you. It's not as scary as it looks. So you're going to need your zipper, and I am using a 7-inch zipper here. And then I'm going to make sure that my pocket piece is 2 inches bigger than my zipper. So if you want to use a bigger pocket and have an 8-inch zipper, cut your fabric at 10 inches. So now we're going to go ahead and cut the notches out for our zipper. So we will start by coming from the top of our pocket down 1 inch, draw a straight line straight across. Then from that line, we're going to come down 3/8 of an inch, draw another line straight across, and this is going to be our zipper opening. Once we get those two lines drawn into place, we're going to come in 1 inch from each of the sides, because remember, our fabric is 2 inches bigger than our zipper. And on the zipper, the length of the zipper is actually measured from the zipper pull to the zipper stop. The zipper tape around the edges does not count, so it's actually going to be the same size as your fabric. So we come in 1 inch from each of the sides, and then we're going to find center between our two top and bottom lines and draw another line in the middle from one of our, like you can see I've done here. Then we will draw a perfect triangle, and we'll use our center line to get the point of our triangle. All right, so to recap here, we came in from 1 inch from the top, and then from that line, we did 3/8 of an inch, drew another line. And then in the center of that, we drew another line. Then we came in 1 inch from each of the sides so that our opening is the actual 7-inch length of our actual zipper teeth. Then we drew our little triangles. These notches are important because it kind of helps prevent puckering when we go to sew our zipper into place. Okay, y'all, are you still with me? So now we're going to go ahead and sew this pocket into the lining, and you want to make sure that you have right side facing you, right sides up on your liner piece, and then right sides down on your pocket piece. So I drew all of my lines on the back side of my fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and just pin this into place just to kind of help hold my pocket into position. And you can position this pocket just about anywhere in the lining you want. Just remember that there's going to be a 1/2 inch to 1 inch seam allowance across the top, so you don't want to get your pocket too close to that. Then we are going to come in and just sew on our box that we have drawn, the inner part of the box. So you can see here how I'm just going down that first top line that we made. Then when we get to the vertical line that we made 1 inch in from the sides, we will pivot and sew down that line, then pivot again and sew down our next horizontal line until we get this whole thing boxed in. Okay, so this is what your box should look like. It should just be inside all of the markings that we made. So you can kind of see on the back, you can get a better, clearer picture of what our box actually looks like. So now we are going to take our scissors and we are going to make a slit down that center line and then up our triangles. And to start the slit, I kind of pinch my fabric together just to get it started. And then we will go ahead and cut down that very center line. And when you're cutting, make sure to be very careful not to cut into any of your stitch marks, especially when you cut out the little triangle notch. You want to stop just before that vertical line so that we don't cut into any of our stitches. Now we have our zipper opening. This is so exciting to me, y'all. I just love this whole process, and I just get so excited and almost giddy feeling as I see it come together. So now we're going to go ahead and take all of our fabric and stuff it through that slit that we made. And it will be a little bit bunchy when you do this, but that's okay because we're going to take it to our iron and press everything down super smooth. So now this is what it should look like. And as you pull, some of that pocket stuff might try to peek back through, but just tuck it back up there and give it another pressing if you have to. So here is what everything looks like after it's been pressed. You can see that there are still a tiny bit of puckers, but that's okay. It's kind of normal to have that. So now we're going to flip this so that right side is facing, and we're going to place our zipper behind that little slit. And you want to make sure that your zipper teeth are perfectly centered in our slit that we've made, and also make sure that your pull is tucked right up against the first the edge of our little opening there. Then once you get your zipper into place, pin it down really well so it doesn't move when we take it to the sewing machine. Then we're going to take it and we're just going to sew a very close stitch to the top of that zipper. And this is where I recommend using a zipper foot because it allows you to get really, really close to that seam. And I'm just using a straight stitch to sew this. As you get to the top of your zipper where the zipper pull is, you probably need to open the zipper a little ways so that you can finish off the top section of that, because the zipper pull will get in the way of your zipper foot and kind of prevent you from getting a really close stitch. So you can see here how close I'm actually sewing to our outer seam, and this is going to make sure that we catch the zipper perfectly all the way around. So you can see here where I opened my zipper a little bit so that I can finish this off. Wahoo! We have successfully sewn a zipper into our invisible pocket. So this is what's called an invisible pocket inside of our liner, and we did it, y'all. We sewed our zipper in, and it wasn't as hard as it looked, right? I didn't think this, I mean, it was just, you just have to take it one step at a time, but it really isn't as difficult as it appeared. So now we're going to go ahead and close our pocket up, and to do this, we're just going to sew down all three of the edges that are open, all the open edges. We don't need to sew across the fold because it's obviously closed. And the tricky part here is that as you're sewing this pocket closed, you want to make sure that you don't catch any part of the lining into this. So as you're sewing, just push the liner out of the way so that it doesn't get caught in there, because you do not want to sew this pocket to the inside of your liner. Ta-da! We have a pocket, y'all. This is so cool. I love it. It just makes me feel really giddy. And I love having, you know, an accent fabric that's different from the liner. I kind of like how they complement each other here. All right, y'all. So now we're going to go ahead and get the rest of this bag assembled. So for the construction of this, we're going to take our two liner pieces, right sides together, and close them all up except for the top. You're only going to close the sides and the bottom, making sure to leave the top open. And also remember, the notched side of this where our boxed corners are going to go is the bottom part of your liner. And as you get down to the edge of that first little notch, do a little back stitch right there to just kind of reinforce that before you move on to sewing your sides closed. We are going to repeat that exact same process with our two outer panels, making sure that right sides are together. I can't stress that enough, because if you accidentally mess up and don't get right sides together, it is such a pain to have to tear all of this out and start over. So make sure your right sides are together. After I sew both panels together, both the liner and the outer part of our bag together, I do go over all of the excess trim with some pinking shears just to get rid of that bulk, and then it also helps clean things up and prevent everything from fraying. Now we're going to go ahead and create our boxed corners. I love this. It's just a very satisfying step for me. So to do this, you're going to kind of smush your bag together to kind of create a little triangle there where our notch is, and you want to make sure that the side seam and the bottom seam are matched up together. And then I kind of just finger press my seams down a little bit just to get a nice flat little corner here, and then we're just going to sew straight across that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And once we've sewn those together, I do take my pinking shears and trim off those little tiny corners, like where the peak of the triangle is, just to kind of clean it up and eliminate some of the bulk. So I'm going to do this to the rest of our bag. This is the outer part of our bag, and then we will do the same exact process with the liner. Okay, y'all, we are getting so close to being finished. Now we are going to move into the final steps here. We're going to go ahead and sew our straps on. And to sew the straps on, this may seem confusing at first, but trust me, it works. We're going to sew the straps to the right side of the bag. So you want right sides facing out. And then I moved my straps in where the outer edge of the outer side of the strap, if that makes sense, is 2 inches in from my outside bag. And it kind of lined them up perfectly with the pockets. And you want to make sure that your strap is only connected to one section, the front section of that, and then the back strap gets connected to just the back section of the panel. Then we will just go ahead and sew a 1/8 inch seam allowance for across the tops to adhere them to the bag. And that 1/8 inch seam allowance is really important when doing the straps, because when we sew our pieces together, we don't want that stitching to show in our final finished product. And I do go over the straps 4 to 5 times just to make sure that they are very securely held into place. Okay, y'all. So now we have everything is assembled. All the main construction is done. So let's finish this bag off. So to finish it off, you want to make sure that your outside panel is right sides out. So you want everything turned right side out. But the liner is going to be inside out, so wrong sides together, so that when you tuck it inside your bag, you end up with actually right sides together. I hope that makes sense to you. You can kind of see here what I'm doing. So we're going to tuck the outer part of our bag inside the liner. And then by doing this, it puts our right sides together. And you kind of just want to push everything down, make sure that all of the edges are really well matched up together, and then tuck your straps in. This is also very, very important, because if you forget that step, your straps will be trapped in between the bag and the liner, and we don't want that to happen. So tuck those straps in, and then the first thing I do is line up my side seams, pin those into place, and then I will go ahead and pin the rest of the outer perimeter of the bag together, making sure that all of my edges are perfectly matched up. All right, so I have everything pinned. Now we do need to leave an opening on this so that we can flip everything right sides out as after it's been sewn together. So I'm going to remove one of those pins, put a colored clip into each spot where I want my opening to be, just so this helps me know where I need to stop and start. So I'm going to start sewing from one green clip and then go all the way around so that we end up with a small opening there. And I do like my opening to be in the back of my bag between the straps. And I should clarify something here. When we tucked the straps inside, when I said inside, I meant inside the bag, between the bag and the liner. You don't want them tucked inside the main part of the bag. So I hope that makes really good sense to y'all. All right, so I did take this to the sewing machine, and I did sew a 1 inch seam allowance across the whole top perimeter of that. Now, this is the fun part. I love this part. It is so satisfying. We can go ahead and start flipping everything right sides out. And you want to do this very, very carefully so as not to, tear anything, and, to just be gentle with it. So once you have everything flipped right side out, it's going to look a little bit wonky. You're going to have like your liner sticking out the top and then your bag out the bottom, and it kind of is like, okay, so what do I do from here? Not to worry, just take that liner and push it down inside the bag and get everything perfectly lined up together, making sure all the corners match, and just get it super tucked in there securely so that everything is matched up. And then ta-da, we have a bag, y'all. So to finish this off, all we have to do is close up that opening, and I'm just going to fold everything in. It'll kind of naturally fold and make its own little seam there, and then I'm going to press it really well, take it to my sewing machine, and close that with a 1 inch seam allowance. Now that we have our opening all sewn together, and I'm sorry, I did make a mistake. That was not a 1 inch seam allowance. It was an 1/8 inch seam allowance for to close up that opening in the back. Then I'm going to take this to my iron and press everything really, really well. And y'all, we have a finished bag. Isn't this beautiful? I love how this turned out. I'm so proud of just this creation. It just is so cute, and I know it's going to be very useful, and I love this hidden pocket inside the liner. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so one last thing. I decided last minute that we should embellish these pockets just a teeny weeny bit, so I went ahead and sewed these buttons onto the top part of the cuff of our pocket. I just thought it would add a little extra something something and just give it a little pizzazz. I love how this bag turned out, y'all. I love our pockets. We've got easy access for cell phone, sunscreen on the outside, and then our hidden pocket on the inside to keep our wallet and keys safe. I love this. It turned out so cute. What do y'all think? Alrighty friends, we successfully completed a tote bag, and wow, I don't know about you, but for me, that was an incredibly fun project. We created some components to this tote bag that I had never done before, and I loved the challenge. I loved learning something new. I loved learning a new technique, and I hope that you did too. I hope this inspired you to break out that sewing machine and all your sewing supplies and have a little fun creating your own personalized beach tote. Little Breckers wanted to make a project too, and she didn't really want to make a tote bag. She wanted to make some toss pillows for her bedroom back at home. So she picked out some fabric, and then we thought it would be really cute to make sort of like a quilted poof cover for her pillows. So we drew a grid on here, and then she just went to work sewing, and I'm so proud of her. She did such a good job creating these pillows for herself. I couldn't have done this better myself. And they turned out so, so cute. Y'all, let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this sewing project and if you would like to see more sewing projects in the future. And while we're talking about comments, I love reading y'all's comments and I love engaging in conversation with y'all. It just helps me get to know you a little bit better, and for you to get to know me a little better. It's sweet to me. I love the comments. So please don't be shy. Feel free to leave a comment and give me your thoughts, or let me know your thoughts on today's content. Alrighty friends, that is going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for spending some time with me today. I appreciate y'all so much. It means everything to me that you take time out of your day to come and hang with me. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon. However, I will be taking next week off. I'm going to be on holiday to go spend some time with my oldest son, and so I will be back again on the... Oh, what day will I be back? The 17th? I better go check that in my calendar. I'll be right back. Okay, I went and checked my calendar, and yes, I will be back on the 15th with a brand new episode for y'all. We're gonna jump into some fun, cute little crafty projects that you can use to help organize your craft supplies. So I think it's gonna be fun. Y'all come back and see me on the 15th. Until then, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be fun. No, we don't want to do that. I got nothing. So today we are going to sew. We're gonna sew today. And that's a wrap.